Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. China says Indian troops crossed the line of actual control and fired warning shots in the eastern Ladakh region. A spokesman for the People's Liberation Army's Western Command said Indian actions are a provocation that will escalate tensions. The two countries have been in a standoff in the Himalayan border region since June 16th. The Taliban say they are ready to begin the intra-Afghan negotiations, but only after all of their prisoners released. Spokesperson for the Taliban's political office, Dr. Muhammad Naeem, said the release of some prisoners is still pending, which is being discussed. India has reported the highest daily coronavirus deaths in the world with 1,133 fatalities, while over 75,000 tested positive for the virus. India's COVID-19 death count has surged to nearly 73,000 with almost 4.3 million cases. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 5 people have died overnight, raising the toll to 6,350 with over 299,000 infections. The novel coronavirus has claimed over 891,000 lives and infected over 27.2 million globally. Nineteen workers have died and 6 others were injured in a marble mine collapse in Pakistan's northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Police say a landslide caused the mine to cave in. Local government officials say there were 50 to 60 people in the mine when the accident occurred in the Mormand district. News in detail coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. China says Indian troops crossed the line of actual control and fired warning shots in the eastern Ladakh region. A spokesman for the People's Liberation Army's Western Command said India's actions are a provocation that will escalate tensions. The spokesman said Indian troops crossed the disputed western Himalayan border at the strategic outpost of Pangong Tso. He urged New Delhi to withdraw its troops, saying Indian troops' movement was in violation of an earlier bilateral agreement. The recent episode of the cross-border escalation comes after a meeting between Chinese and Indian defense ministers in Moscow on Friday. The two countries have been in a standoff in the Himalayan border region since 16th of June. The crisis peaked when 20 Indian soldiers were killed on June 15 in the disputed Aksai Chin region administered by China. The Taliban say they are ready to begin the intra-Afghan negotiations, but only after all of their prisoners are released. Spokesperson for the Taliban's political office, Dr. Muhammad Naeem, said the release of some prisoners is still pending, which is being discussed. Both Kabul and the Taliban have already announced their negotiating teams for the talks. US envoy Zalmay Khalilzad and the delegations are in Doha, where the negotiations will be held. Now, India has reported the highest daily coronavirus deaths in the world with 1,133 fatalities, while over 75,000 tested positive for the virus. India's COVID-19 death count has surged to nearly 73,000 with almost 4.3 million cases. The coronavirus has claimed over 891,000 lives and infected over 27.2 million globally. More in this report.
Coronavirus continues to wreak havoc in India. According to the World Health Organization, India has been reporting the highest number of daily COVID-19 cases in the world for nearly a month. The novel coronavirus is also threatening a full-blown second wave in the UK and France. Britain has reported its highest number of daily cases since May. Spain has become the first Western European country to report a total cases of over 500,000. The WHO has said the world needs to be ready for the next pandemic, as it called on countries to invest in public health.
This will not be the last pandemic. History teaches us that outbreaks and pandemics are a fact of life. But when the next pandemic comes, the world must be ready, more ready than it was this time.
In the Americas, Argentina's death toll has crossed 10,000 as the South American nation fights to bring the cases under control. A survey has shown 5% of Brazilians will not take a COVID-19 vaccine under any circumstance, and a further 20% indicated they might not take it. While US President Donald Trump said there is a surprise coming up very soon, referring to the coronavirus vaccine.
So, contrary to all of the lies, the vaccine, that they're politicalized, they'll say anything, and it's so dangerous for our country what they say. But the vaccine will be very safe and very effective, and it'll be delivered very soon. You could have a very big surprise coming up. I'm sure you'll be very happy, but the people will be happy. The people of the world will be happy.
In Asia, mainland China has reported no domestic cases for the 23rd day straight, while South Korea has reported a further decline in daily cases as the number remained below 200 for the 6th consecutive day.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 5 more people have died from the new coronavirus, while 330 more tested positive in the last 24 hours. The Health Ministry said the death toll in the country is at 6,350. The ministry said over 286,000 patients have recovered so far, declining the number of active cases to 6,726. The ministry said the countrywide caseload is over 299,000. Sindh remains the most affected province with over 130,000 infections, while Punjab has reported more than 97,000 cases so far. Moving on, Yemen's rebel group Houthis say they have carried out an attack against multiple targets in Saudi Arabia. The armed group spokesperson General Yahya Sari said the latest operation hit Saudi Arabia's Abha International Airport. He said the Air Force carried out wide-scale attacks with drones hitting several sensitive and military targets. The Arab coalition fighting in Yemen has not commented on the claim. Yemen faces the world's worst humanitarian crisis as the unrest and war in the country has entered its 5th year. Now, China has launched an initiative to establish global standards on data security. At the announcement, China's State Councillor Wang Yi said Beijing intends to promote multilateralism amid bullying by some countries. Wang said a new set of global data security rules should reflect and respect the wishes and interests of all the countries. He said some countries want to pursue unilateralism as they hunt and bully leading companies under the pretext of security. The program urges technology firms to prevent illegal data collection and calls to protect jurisdiction and data management. Rights of all countries. Beijing's initiatives comes a month after the US launched its campaign Untrusted Chinese Apps under a program called the Clean Network. More news coming up after the short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now moving on with the news stories. US President Donald Trump has said he would support Germany pulling out of the Nord Stream 2 with Russia, but claimed its energy sector was too weak to do so. At a press conference in Washington, Trump said he has long advised Germany to reduce its over-dependency on Russian energy. President Trump said NATO exists to protect Europe from Russia, but he said Germany paid billions of dollars to the country at the time when its annual dues to the alliance are still pending. The Nord Stream pipeline brings Russian natural gas to Germany and other parts of Europe. Calls to withdraw from the project gained new momentum in Russian critic Alexei Navalny's alleged poisoning. Now, Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz and Russian President Vladimir Putin have emphasized the importance of bilateral trade relations in a telephonic conversation. The Saudi state media said King Salman expressed satisfaction over Russia's role in the stabilization of global oil market under the OPEC Plus deal. Meanwhile, in a statement, the Kremlin said the Putin highlighted the fruitful cooperation with Saudi Arabia in the field of energy. It said the two leaders also discussed preparations for the upcoming meeting of G20 heads of states and governments under the Saudi presidency. The Kremlin said King Salman and Putin paid particular attention to the prospects of joint production of the Russian vaccine to prevent further infection. Now, Saudi Arabia has convicted 8 people charged with the killing of a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. State media said a court handed 20-year sentences to 5 people charged in the murder case. It said 3 others were sentenced to between 7 to 10 years. The final court verdict comes after Khashoggi's sons said in May they had pardoned the killers. Khashoggi went missing on the 2nd of October 2018 while visiting the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Now, the European Union has voiced concern and regret over Serbia's commitment to move its embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Speaking to the media in Brussels, EU spokesman Peter Stano said any steps that call into questioning the bloc's common position on Jerusalem are a matter of serious concern. The move has cast a shadow over the resumption of Serbia-Kosovo talks. President Aleksandar Vučić of Serbia and Kosovo Prime Minister Abdullah Hoti are to meet in Brussels for a second round of EU brokered talks. The meeting follows a high-profile summit at the White House where Vučić and Hoti agreed to improve economic relations. In Serbia's case, Belgrade committed to moving its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Now, to honor Pakistan Navy heroes of 1965 war against India, the nation is celebrating Navy Day today. This commemorates the heroic achievements and pays tribute to the great sacrifices by Pakistan's naval forces during the war. In his message, Pakistan's Chief of Naval Staff Admiral Zafar Mahmood Abbasi said the country's navy is fully capable and vigilantly guarding its maritime boundaries and interests. He said the Navy is recognized as a potent force in the region and a key partner in international navies' collaborative maritime security. Abbasi said Pakistan reiterates solidarity with Kashmiris and denounces blatant annexation of Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Moving on now, the United Kingdom and France have agreed that talks on a Brexit deal needed to make progress this month. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and French President Emmanuel Macron discussed the issue in a phone call. Johnson's office said the two leaders agreed that they needed to reach a conclusion quickly. This comes after London signalled it can undermine the exit agreement with Brussels unless free trade terms are agreed by next month. Britain said it will honour the deal and was simply offering clarifications to avoid any future legal difficulties. Now, a Venezuela opposition coalition has announced a unitary pact calling for free elections while others boycott the polls. 4 main opposition parties, along with 33 smaller entities, called for increased international pressure on President Nicolas Maduro. The opposition coalition says it will not take part in the presidential and legislative elections over possible rigging. But a faction led by the 2-time presidential candidate Henrique Capriles has opened talks with the government to seek assurances. Meanwhile, opposition leader Juan Guaido said engaging in a fraudulent election will enable Maduro's dictatorship.
We ratify our rejection of the fraud elections that has been called on December 6 by the dictatorship. We will mobilize for a national and international campaign for free presidential and parliamentary elections. Also, we will build a campaign for a Venezuela that is against fraud.
Meanwhile, 3 Belarusian opposition politicians have dodged border control to flee to Ukraine. Belarus border guard officials said protest leader Maria Kolesnikova was among those escaped. Protest leader Maria had been detained and taken away by unarmed assailants in central Minsk on Monday. She was one of the 3 women who joined forces to challenge incumbent Alexander Lukashenko in August election. Meanwhile, the EU has demanded Belarus to release all people detained on political grounds before and after the disputed presidential elections. Now moving on to South Korea, where thousands of trainee doctors have ended their 18-day strike over a medical reform plan amid the resurging coronavirus cases in the country. The health officials say interns and residents have returned to work, but the junior doctors will have to take tests for COVID-19 before resuming service. The authorities say trainees who skipped a licensing exam in protest will not be allowed to retake it. Earlier, the doctors' union said they will return to work but warned of tougher action if the government did not support students. Meanwhile, 19 workers have died and 6 others were injured in a marble mine collapse in Pakistan's northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Local government officials say there were 50 to 60 people working in the mine when the accident occurred in the Mohmand district. Officials said dozens were still trapped under the rubble while army troops were also called on. Police said the landslide was the cause the mine to cave in. Asian stocks have edged up as investors look to shrug off the negative sentiment from Japan's revised GDP figures for the second quarter. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 and Topix index advanced over 0.5%. Elsewhere, Hong Kong's Hang Seng index too gained 0.5%. Mainland Chinese stocks also edged higher. South Korea's Kospi has risen over 0.5%. Shares in Australia also saw gained, with the S&P 200 trading close to 1%. And that is the end of the bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Thank you.